that point, I was quite in the limelight. And maybe it was also kind of like too overwhelming because at that point, people thought, the restaurant business or being a chef is like all glamour. And I was 25. I was still on party mode. So at that point, people also, after the festival, would ask me to cook dinner. And, I would had one assistant, maybe two, and I would cook dinners for people. And because I was also partying at night, I sometimes was late. Or at one point, I remember I left my food in another car, and I got to the house of the client, and the food wasn't with me. In other words, I was not focused. So it was a real kind of, for all the students out there, it was a real waker-upper for me. And I had to decide, that was around 1990 maybe, is this going to be my career, or is this just fun and games of spoiled brat? So I had, and at that point, I guess because of my very exciting lifestyle, I also had my son. I'm a single mom, so I understand what you're saying. My son is 24 now, but I think that he's the one who brought me back down to earth. So that's what started my career. It took me 10 years of just doing private catering before I opened Chibo. So 1997, I opened Chibo, then opened other restaurants. And although my work started with Italian food, I think that two very important advocacies are very close to my heart. The first one is really working with Filipino produce and healthy produce. That's because I had two health challenges, one in 2004, another one 2 years ago. So it really has made me even more determined to really help our organic farmers and do things sustainably and really try to find healthier ways of sourcing our food. And of course, the other one is, although I started my work with Italian food, I think that it helped me rediscover my own cuisine, our own Filipino cuisine. So it's really made me an advocate. My work with Madrid Fusion Manila that just finished, and also, although I represent this culinary center, Casa Artusi in Italy, what I do when I'm out of the Philippines is I cook Filipino food. So that's my story. Thank you.
So, Miss Gaida, I just had No, it's okay. By all means, just a really short question, actually. You tell us this story with a smile on your face, and it seems as though there wasn't any fear when you shifted from the fashion industry into the food industry. But I'm not sure if you felt it when you were there at that time. I mean, was there a certain level of hesitation? Did you ever think to yourself, is this the right move? Is this...
Well, I'm thinking, listening to almost everyone on stage today, there's this gut-wrenching thing, I think, that's made us all choose what we're doing today. So it kind of is like maybe a flame in there that really just kept me going, although there's always been a lot of challenges through the years. It's been 29 years since I went to school. And all the more today, you ask us, how can you sort of know that you're already successful? I always say, on my 30th year, it still feels new. And I think there are even more lessons to learn today. So it's, I think I'm as excited about my work today as I was 30 years ago.
All right. So, do we get the recipes?
Yes. I'm sure later there will be a lot of questions
Zola
around
and the
that.
rigatoni al Alfonso?
Yes, don't forget we'll give you the opportunity. Now, we have to go to Brian. Brian and his bamboo tie. No, but Brian, this is just a wonderful concept that you have here. But obviously, this is not just because of your entrepreneurial spirit, but also for your love for the environment, right? How was it launching this kind of business and this kind of project?
Well, I guess I really became interested in the environment and decided that it was something that I would pursue as a career. Early on, I was about the age of you students in the audience when I had to make my first real life-changing decision, and this was sophomore year. I had to declare a major. And up until that point, I always thought that I was going to become a sports doctor. because I was always active and I got hurt and the doctors always put me back together, and I thought, hey, that's something I really like. But when it came time to really declare my major, I had to think, what is it that makes me happy? What kind of impact do I want to have on the world? And what do I want to spend my time doing? And I realized it wasn't being in the hospital, being put back together that really made me happy. It was more doing the things that I loved, and I was very lucky in my childhood to be able to spend my time outdoors, tripping, camping, kayaking, canoeing, hiking, climbing things, and biking around. So fast forward through my college years, I focused on ecotourism development and sustainable resource management in academia. And then that got me to thinking about how I can apply my knowledge and curiosity and skills to the Philippines. And I'd come back and forth here since I was a kid, just enough to, feel comfortable, and then had to go back. So for Christmas or summer breaks. But I was exposed to poverty for the first time. And I saw how some people really were subjected to this cycle of poverty, which was in part social, in part just their environment. And I wanted to figure out how I could do something about it. So my work for my master's thesis was with Gawad Kalinga, and we were looking at sustainable community development in such that I wanted to help GK green their building program. So that's what got me out here to the Philippines in the first place. I thought I was going to finish my master's thesis, implement the project here in the community that we were building, and then maybe after 6 months go back to the States in San Francisco and find some green job. My story kind of took a different turn. I really began to discover my Filipino-ness and reconnect with my family and my roots here. And I kind of got really attached and fell in love with the country. And after volunteerism, I found out it doesn't pay the bills. I realized we needed to have some sort of sustainable livelihood to keep things going, right? I have had quite an adventure here in the Philippines. I mean, my parents probably are gritting their teeth sometimes, because after I finished school, my first paying job was as a stuntman, jumping in between buildings. And my parents are like, what are you doing with your life? And then I'm like, Mom, I'm going to build bamboo bikes. And she's like, oh my God, anak, what? Seriously? No one bikes in the Philippines, bamboo, you're going to get, is it strong enough? And kind of that was a sentiment that a lot of people asked me, like, is it strong enough? What are you doing? People don't ride bikes. And I was like, perfect. I want to be in the environment where, like, I'll be a trailblazer instead of, following someone else's kind of path of what they felt was success. Success for me is a bit different, I think. And I really had to get a grip on what my core values were to figure out how I could create a business to really change my own life in a way that I could have a positive benefit on society. So the core values of my company now are people, planet, progress. And people, it's, taking care of the environment. I'm sorry, jumping ahead. People, it's taking care of the community that, I work with, and the BAM builders that are really the core assets of the company. Without them, we couldn't build anything like this. I mean, when I was trying to build all this stuff, I could do it, but then I'm bleeding and sweating, and it takes me a lot longer than the skilled builders that I have in the community. So we also give back to the community through a feeding program, and we sponsor the Siebel School and the teachers. Planet being, I wanted to create a product or line of products that uses a material that's arguably the greenest building material in the planet. And then progress, it's coming up with appropriate environmental solutions for the challenges that we face and really developing a new green economy, which I feel bamboo can be, the staple in. So, BAM Bike.
BAM Bike. Well, what I get from you is that you're obviously a well-rounded individual who's very passionate, and passion here is obviously overflowing.
Overflowing, indeed.
Overflowing. But obviously, you also had great support. Tell us a little bit more about your parents, because you were saying earlier that though they do encourage you. There was at some point worried about your future, but obviously they started you off well. Can you tell us about the importance of having that trust and great relationship with your parents so that you will be able to even venture out on your own eventually?
Sure. So my family, my parents were both in the fields of, my father was with Citibank, he's an investment banker. My mother was at IBM doing client solutions and sales. So I took a very different path, kind of being the bunso. My brother kind of followed my father's footsteps, and me, I'm there like climbing trees and, doing all this stuff, like coming home really dirty, biking around. But I was very fortunate to have parents which supported my decisions and encouraged me to follow my curiosity. And to the students out there, I know everyone speaks about following your passion, and that can be kind of intimidating. How do you know yourself well enough to understand what your passion really is? And for me, I was lucky enough in my childhood and through the support of my parents to be able to experience a lot of different things. Trying out different sports, traveling to different places, experiencing different sectors of society, and really being able to understand better who I was so that I could make the right decisions for how I wanted to help, people and what career path I would take myself. And I'm, again, very blessed to have the parents that were very supportive. And then now my mom and I actually do work together in the community. She's created the Benitez collection, which is a line of jewelry made out of upcycled paper and different things. So we kind of are partners in sustainable social enterprise, and it's really fun now because we share a similar passion in that sense.
I'm 100% sure that your mom is like extra happy that she partnered with you on this rather than the jumping off of buildings, because that would have
Most
been
likely, yeah.
that would have been relatively hard to do. But thank you, Brian.
And to all of our panelists
And to
on
all-
that side, why don't we give them a big round of applause? But of course, we're not done yet. There's still a lot of sharing to do, and I'd like for you to ask the next question. 'Cause
Wow.
it's right there.
Well played. Well played. Okay, so this is a question that we're directing to everybody. Whoever wants to speak up on it first, feel free to do so. Very recently, the U.S. Supreme Court legalized same-sex marriage. What are your thoughts on it?
Oh,
And then there was
actually,
silence.
why not? Why not? Father Filoni, what are the moral implications of this topic?
Well, let me start with a positive. I think the positive thing is happening in our world is more recognition and accepting everybody as they are. And I think the world is getting better in that sense. I can see a lot of less discrimination and more reaction against discrimination, which is, I think, that's a positive step forward. Now, as a Catholic and as a person, I still have difficulty imagining matrimony between two persons of the same sex. Not imagining love. I have seen a lot of gay people in love, so I have no problem seeing. Probably because of even of my studies, even in the field of psychology, I feel that for children to grow up, a father and a mother are very important. Not only spiritually, but even psychologically, to build up personalities. Therefore, I think to venture into matrimony is a different thing. So the position of the church, which I share, the position that matrimony is between a man and a woman, and that's the building block of a family where children could come and find identification in the father side and mother side. But again, I think this gay movement, what is installing in society is acceptance for everybody. And I think that's a major step forward as a society. I think we are a better world because not discriminating anyone and giving everyone a chance to be what they are, and also recognizing, not only, it's not just accepting, but really recognizing the potential. Like in my parish, I have gay leaders, and they are great people, and they are really doing great things for the parish. So personally, I cannot see a family where you have two fathers and the children. Maybe, I don't know, I'm maybe matanda na, hindi ko pa na feature. Maybe it will take time to move forward. But I think what the church is teaching, that family is between a man and a woman, that's right. Now, accepting the love between two persons and giving also the legal environment where two partners, where they are not a matrimony, where there is not sacrament, but there is legally they are united and they can share things like a pension, like a retirement, like etc. I think that's very possible, and I think we will see it in the near future, where we recognize love, we give love equal right, but also we acknowledge that the family as an institution is something different. And therefore, we also recognize now this is the environment where the best environment to bring up a family. I still recognize that the church will always teach what is the best, but also we recognize that there are different levels. That's why we can teach sex. The best environment for sex is marriage, but we recognize that not everybody understands and live it out. The church will say, yes. So, I mean, the church, the position of the church is to teach the best, but to accompany everyone. Because all of us, we cannot live to the top of the expectation of everybody else. So we are all fault in our own life in so many things. So we are all trying to get better. So the church is trying to teach what is the best and accompany us all the way from where we are to the best that we can be.
Thank you, Father. Thank you, Father. Very well said.
Thank you.
Jimmy. Now, it is a tough question. Remember last year, Jason Collins, Brooklyn Nets, he is the first openly gay athlete, not just in the NBA, but in any of the four major sports in North America, in any of the four major sporting leagues in North America. And he came out and he was able to say that he was gay. But how did that change everything? Because obviously that made a big impact, and him being eventually one of the Time Magazine's 100 most influential people in the world last year. What do you think is the implication on that, though, on sports? Is there the same kind of tolerance as it is with the church in the world of sports?
It's difficult to answer after Father because he gave such a great explanation. But I think from an athlete's perspective, someone like Jason Collins, who's recognized throughout the world, and you know, even more recently, the last few years, even pro football players have come out and said, hey, I'm gay. And I think initially it really caught a lot of people off guard because it just wasn't the norm. But again, like Father said, you know, there's a much better outlook now where people are more accepting of people's individual choices. And you know, at the end of the day, I believe that, you know, we're all here to try to live the best life that we can for ourselves and for our family and the people that we love and care about the most. And, you know, to deny another person, you know, whoever he may love or whoever he may care about, I feel it's not our choice to decide for somebody else. And if that's what makes them happy, and that's what, you know, allows them to live a life that brings joy to them and to those around them, and they're not hurting anybody, I don't really see anything wrong with it.
Well said. Well said, Jimmy.
Thanks.
All right. And to close off this topic, of course, Dr. Margie Holmes.
She was right. You need to ask
Were you
me.
heartbroken for a little bit?
Close off.
Of course, we have to ask you. So, your thoughts?
Thank you. First of all, I want you to know this is not making sip-sip. Father, I agree with you 100%. Okay? I agree because, oklap naman. No. I very rarely say this to a priest. That's why. And Father, I admire you because you're consistent. Right? You're consistent, and it's the way I feel, not just for a feeling, but then I'm a psychologist, so I know everything. Joke lang yan, ha? Okay. For feeling that you mean what you say, and as they say, you walk the talk, you just only talk the talk. Right? So I agree with what you're saying. I mean, in terms of if you are a Catholic and you want to follow Christ's teaching, then don't. You just have a marriage between a man and a woman. I agree with that 100%. For those of us who are nominal Catholics or, other things, then you see a lot of, I think a lot of how you guide your life has to also do with your definition of God. And it helps to have a clear direction, which we were talking about with Father. It is so important to have a direction that your definition of God is helped by the community. And, you have leaders, have moral leaders that you believe in and you have faith in. Some of us are not so lucky to have this, because of maybe what happened in our lives, or because we were born Buddhists, or our parents were atheists or something, are not so lucky to, or are not, I shouldn't say, lucky or unlucky, that's a judgment. Some of us have different definitions of God, and just my definition, I'm not thinking, although, I hope this doesn't make me sound schizophrenic, but my definition of God is someone who not only accepts, because acceptance has an element of judgment. I accept you. Is someone who celebrates and encourages homosexual marriage as much as heterosexual marriage. This is, my feeling. And I hope also we remember, which is the same thing those of us who fought the RH bill, are saying that, what was I going to say? Okay, thank you. That the RH bill, which a lot of the senators and I was going to say a lot of the senators and other hypocrites, no, I don't mean that, a lot of the senators and the congressmen, etc., fought against. It's as though people forgot that there's a separation of church and state. And if you respect the Catholic Church, which I do, especially if you have people like, Father Luciano, and that's not bola, right? Then, by all means, respect them. But if you're you're Filipino, and, you believe that, you want to practice birth control, or you're in love, as Father said, and I'm so happy the Catholic Church recognizes, and you love a man, a fellow man, or I love a fellow woman, then, why should I not be allowed to marry this person and at least be recognized by the church? So I have no problems with inheritance. I have no problems when my lover, my girlfriend, my wife is in hospital and they say, no, you cannot visit because you're not a family member, and all that. Yeah. This is what I believe. That's all.
There's just all this talk about that, and it's really a great topic, and I'm glad that we're able to discuss that in this kind of forum. But we're actually also gonna get into, in a short while, a Q&A discussion between our panelists here, where they can ask each other anything that they would like,
Right,
which is scary.
Scary, but it should make for great entertainment.
Absolutely, absolutely. But before that, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to first go quickly to a wonderful presentation, just a quick breaker for all of you, with, of course, the first half, almost the first half of this day's segment. We definitely need an intermission after all of these wonderful and inspiring and heavy topics that we've been dealing with. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, we shall hear a dedication song. Would that be okay? A dedication song from our tenor, Randy Hilongo, to be accompanied by concert pianist Mary Ann Espina. And we are very, very excited for this one, ladies and gentlemen. So, if Miss Mary Ann is ready, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, with Miss Mary Ann Espina, Mr. Randy Hilongo.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Randy Hilongo and Miss Mary Ann Espina.
What a glorious situation.
Thank you very much, Sir Randy.
His swagger just changed.
I know. Earlier on, he was just quietly sitting there.
Seriously.
And then, wow. But I guess that's just how it is when you're a performer. Now, like we said earlier, we are actually opening up the floor.
Yes.
Sort of, for our panelists to ask each other questions. Because, just sitting here, we've had all these questions, but we never really actually gave you guys the opportunity to ask the questions that you might want to ask other people also in the panel. So,
And Regina would like to start.
Hello. I have a question for Celine, actually. I have a question about acting. This is kind of a big question, so don't hate me for this. But, okay, so I was wondering how do you practice emotions? Because that's what you bring out on stage. How do you make yourself cry? I asked somebody else, some actress, before this question.
That is a very relevant question since we'll be doing Spoliarium later on, and it does require a lot of emotional baggage. Because like I was telling it to earlier that, after I was talking to you because you do a lot of opera, and opera takes so much emotions out of you. So it's really about being in the moment every time, trusting that the material, because since I'm a writer, and I know you write also, it actually helped me a lot because I trust the words a lot in the script. I trust that it will give me the right emotions because it's there for a reason. It's there to give you what you need as an actor. So yes, listening to the material, listening to your co-actors, to the scene in which you're in, and just being in the moment every time. Because it is hard. Once you get distracted, it really requires tremendous focus to act, like mental focus. Because if you leave it for a second, you lose everything. So yeah.
That's very, can I comment? That's really interesting how you're talking about trusting the words, because I feel that as musicians, we're doing the same thing. And on stage, we're reacting to the music.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. Because the part I said about listening, the first time I learned that was I was watching the play Masterclass about Maria Callas, the soprano, and she talks about listening to the music. And when I started singing, I would always, you would listen to yourself, you listen to your voice, and you'd get so nervous, will it be done properly? But once I started to just listen to the music, the job became so much easier. So, yeah, it's the same.
Cool.
All right, thank you very much. How about on this side? Do we have any questions Brian?
So this question is targeted towards Gaita and Jimmy. Because the Filipino people are facing severe health problems with regards to obesity, heart disease, diabetes, I wonder if either of you have thought about ways in which you can use your influence on society to address these issues. Because me, as a biker, I feel almost an obligation to try and create a new platform for physical activity and education to do something. So I wonder if you guys have thought of anything along those lines.
Should I go first? Sure. Well, I guess with my work, it's kind of obvious that there is a way to be able to influence people to eat healthier. I think that there are a lot of ingredients nowadays that are actually quite endemic to the Philippines that have been discovered to have all these wonderful, really sort of healing properties. I just very recently, I kind of like had a bout with a little bit of high blood pressure, which, I mean, I'm the type of person who never wants to go and take a pill that's chemical to help the situation. So I consulted Dr. Albert Joe, who's an Ilonggo like me from Bacolod, and asked him, what could I take? And he says, just pound on some turmeric, some luyang dilaw, and get the liquid from there. And I promise you, within 3 days, my diastolic was down to 80 from 100. So I said, there's so much. I mean, there's colitis from Bacolod that, people grow, in their gardens. That's, malunggay. And then, of course, now everybody's found mangosteen. And of course, coupled with the exercise, especially for people over 50 like us, that it gets harder and harder. I kind of like noticed Rachel Alejandro in the audience, and she has this wonderful business supplying diet meals, which I also started doing way back, and I think that it's a wonderful thing that she can do it and call it the sexy chef so that it makes it fun. So I think that it's as influencers in our field, there's a lot that we can do, and I'm sure with sports and eating healthy mixed up together, there's
maybe
a lot
there's a
that
potential
we can help with.
collaboration.
Yeah.
Bam, I think to answer your question, I think the last 5+ months that I've been retired, I've found myself having more opportunities to really meet different athletes, be it professionally or even from a grassroots level, and really encourage all of them to understand the importance of being fit and making healthier choices when it comes to food from a young age. Again, I think if you can learn that at an early age, the better off you'll be as you grow older, and especially if you're more so if you're competing in sports. I think it's that much more important. But I think, again, because I'm not the typical prototype when you think of athlete, especially when it comes to basketball, hopefully kids, again, especially at the grassroots level, will start to understand that eating better is very important when it comes to training and practicing. If you're going to spend a lot of time in the gym and training, and so hopefully by starting that discipline from an early age, I think it'll set them up better as they get older.
Thank you. Well, you're right. There could be some synergy that could go on.
Some sort of
'cause it is
collaboration
related.
that could happen, yes.
Absolutely related. Great question. Let's go to Randy over here. Do you have a question for anybody?
I have a question for Father Luciano. My question is, when you studied Filipino, was it because of necessity or you just really love the language?
No, it was purely because of necessity, and then I got to love the language. Necessity kasi na-assign ako sa Payatas, so wala masyadong silbi ang English, and at the same time mahina ako sa English that time, no? Kasi my language is Spanish, so it's not English. So necessity, and then as I start to study Tagalog, nagustuhan ko kasi napakayaman ang Tagalog. For every expression in Spanish, you have 3 or 4 different translations in Filipino. Meaning that is much richer language than Spanish, which is already a very rich language. Nothing to say compare with English, for example. No, definitely it's a much, much deeper, richer, more emotional language. So the more I study Filipino, the more na nagustuhan ko, the more na nainlove ako sa language. But nagsimula bilang purely pangangailangan.
Purely pangangailangan.
All right, so from one great Randy, we move on to another great Randy as well. Do you have anything that you would want to ask?
I have a question to Brian. Now, I want to how would the quality of the bike? Because I'm interested because of...
Do you want to ride it right now?
How's the quality? Can I assure the quality of the bamboo?
So I know you do a lot of trekking, and we do have a mountain bike which can do all the off-road trails. So that question has always been a big one that people ask, is bamboo strong enough? And it took me quite a while to help, change that perception of bamboo being bamboo lang to being bamboo naman yan, So what I had to do, it took me from 2009 to 2012 to really figure out the research and development and the prototyping. And I'm not a trained engineer. I guess I'm a builder by practice. And I had to do a lot of iterations and testing and checking the different species, treatment methods. But then finally in 2012, I decided I would invest in getting a bike certified to the international bike standards. And I was sweating bullets. I flew to Taiwan because we didn't have the testing machines here. And I brought 2 frames. And I only had enough, to test 2 frames. Usually these big companies go in there with tons of money, and I'm like praying that, these bike frames pass, because it wasn't cheap to get them tested. And we passed on both accounts, the fatigue, impact testing, stress for the mountain bike and the road bike. And then just from personal use, I kind of bash and thrash the bikes and wouldn't ever sell a product that I didn't myself feel was, good enough for me and good enough to represent the Philippines to the rest of the world.
Thank you. That's awesome. One last question. Okay. 2. You're the second to the last. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Father.
I would like to ask a question to the principal kasi maganda yun, di ba? No, maganda sundan yung passion mo. Tapos yumamang ka sa passion mo, ayos yun, di ba? Pero what about you follow your passion and you will be poor forever. I mean, I'm a priest, so I have chosen this life, not to make money. But for a lay person, no, how about you? Is it 2-3 years of your life? Is it forever, this choice? Na kapag sinundan mo ang passion mo, you are also embracing sacrifice. Kasi bilang teacher, malabo pa sa puting na yayaman, di ba? So talaga.
Yeah, there are a lot of offers na I have to transfer for my professional growth and for my, of course, for an income. But I regret it because of my passion to help them. But I'm not forever there because I'm not a Matigsalog tribe. I'm not an IPs. But I will transfer, time will come, but I see to it that they can stand alone, that they can stand without me. Because I started to train about different leadership. This coming July, August, we will be having a youth leadership with a Mama Sapano survivor. I invited him. And of course, for the Pigalong Farmers Association, I also train with a different aspect of leadership about the DNR, the city agriculturists. And I said to myself na, sa totoo lang, hindi ko talaga alam kasi wala na talaga akong challenge pagdating ko, pag principal na ako sa Davao City. Kasi mag-supervise lang ba ako sa mga teachers. Hindi ko talaga alam as of now. But I pray to God na whatever responsibilities na ibibigay sa akin, I hope that mas malaki pa kaysa sa Pigalongan. I hope.
Sana.
All right.
Pagpalain ka pa.
Thank you very much. And at this point, I'm sure that our members of the audience will want to ask a few questions to our panelists as well. So we are now opening the floor. There are microphones located, I think, by the aisles. So if you have any questions,
We only have room and time for 2 questions. So do take advantage of this opportunity.
Yeah, don't be one of those people who will wait for one person first, then ask a question after, because there's only room for 2. So.
And we also have microphones all the way to the back. You need just go close to the railing to access those microphones. So please feel free. We encourage all of you to take this opportunity.
Or if you're a tenor, you can sing it out also.
Over here, we have a question here.
There we go.
There you go.
Do I have to introduce myself? Or
Sure, sir. Hello, how are you? What's your name, please? I can hear you.
My name is Marvin Pinson. I'm also visiting from the States. I happen to be here when you're having this. My question is, with so much talent, so much commitment, and so much natural wealth, why is the country continuing to slip down compared to other countries in the region?
I beg to disagree too. Pero we are Filipino.
Right, Father?
No. Ako? Well, sige.
And anyone can answer the question.
Dapat Filipino ho ang sasagot. Pero, sige lang. I beg to disagree. I beg to disagree kasi if you look in the grassroots, a lot is going on and happening. The country is getting better. So, I don't know if you see the financial numbers, wala akong alam dyan. So, hindi ko alam. But what I know, ang pag-uunlad ng isang bansa ay walang sa bilang ng mga billions dollars na nakatago sa bangko. Definitely, development is not there. So, I can see development in the country. I can see a lot of industries developing. I can see a lot of young people getting more jobs here. When I came 21 years ago, the only option was to go abroad. Now there are much more options going on. I can see people buying more accessible houses, simple but more accessible. I can see, for example, on the area of health, a better health system. Just last week, PhilHealth approved 90 sessions of dialysis free per patient. That covers almost the whole year. So I think there is a lot to change in the country, definitely. But I think it's fair to say that with a lot of effort, the country is getting better, not worse. That's my humble point of view.
Dr. March, you wanted to say something about that
Please.
as well.
Oh, yes. Anyway, I think, yeah, it depends on your definition of success, no? I mean, people try to say that trickle-down economics perhaps is a definition of success, but when you have, big corporations, etc., as greedy as ours, I doubt you will ever see trickle-down economics here in this country. However, if your definition of success is you have the time and passion to look after your children, if your children, have good enough education, you have food on the table, and you have a heart that knows how to give and also to receive. I mean, this is a totally different definition of success, which I think we as Filipinos have